On today's program, I have Dr. Judith Orloff, and we're going to talk about her new book, Thriving as an Empath, 365 Days of Self-Care for Sensitive People, and also the companion book, The Empath's Empowerment Journal. So welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on.
Hey, I'm really excited to have you because I think your work's very important, especially in, I think, our modern climate where empathic people are unfortunately taken advantage of by, I think there's a lot of narcissists in society and just a lot of people who, I think, dismiss empathic people. So I would love to, talk about what you think about that, society, as a whole, as well as individual people. But do you think there's an epidemic of people in power taking advantage of empathic people?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, if you just look at the world stage and what's happening right now, you see the battle between narcissism and empathy. So it's being acted out every day. It's so in the forefront. And I wrote Thriving as an Empath and the journal, to help people develop self-care so they're not exhausted, overwhelmed, or taken for granted, by other people. You have to be a strong, empathic person now. You can't just feel weak and fragile. You need to develop your empowerment, and that's what Thriving as an Empath is about.
Well, in listening to some of your YouTube videos, which I highly recommend people hear, you're a great speaker, and I think you do a good job of breaking things down, so they're easy to grasp. But what
Thank you.
would you? Oh, you're welcome. The one thing that really struck me was when you talked about the differences between being an empath versus just a highly sensitive person. So could you kind of break down what are the traits that are unique to being an empath?
Well, empaths are sensitive and open and intuitive. They have a deep feeling for nature and the earth. They have a strong sense of commitment to other people, have deep compassion and love for humankind. And so all of that is true of highly sensitive people, but what empaths do is they're emotional sponges, and they tend to take on the stress of the world and other people into their own bodies, and they tend to give too much, and they become martyrs or codependent and sacrifice their own vital energy when they need to learn how to set boundaries, practice self-care, and find a balance as an empath.
Well, I think your fans are so dedicated to you because you identify as an empath, and you've told a lot of your story. At what point in your life did something click in your head when you said, I'm not overly sensitive, I'm an empath?
Right. Well, I think it's been a gradual process because I was raised by two physician parents, and I have 25 physicians in my family. And as a child, I was always told, oh, dear, get a thicker skin. You need to toughen up. So I grew up believing there was something wrong with me. And I had a great deal of shame about my sensitivities because I thought I had to be different. And, in truth, and I write about it in Thriving as an Empath, it's the gift of being different. It's embracing. If you don't feel you belong in the mainstream all the time, that's fine. You can take the road less traveled. And so over time, I began to embrace this ability and see it as part of my strengths. And it was through my own process of healing and therapy that I began to really see that this is part of, who Judith is, and it's beautiful, and it's strong, and it's wonderful, and I don't have to change it. But I need to learn how not to take on so much from the world so that it exhausts me.
Well, when you say exhaust, there's a lot of terms that are thrown around today, like adrenal fatigue and PTSD and just different things where I think we acknowledge, our mental state affects our physical state, but as an empath, it seems even deeper, like other people can just deplete you of your energy, your physical energy.
Well, that's because empaths don't have the same kind of filters up that other people have or the same kind of defenses. So their neurology is just a bit more open. That's why I wrote the book, to practice self-care, so that you can compensate for that and you can honor that. If you can't deal with people in the same way as non-empaths. Non-empaths don't absorb. They don't take on like a sponge. It's just different. My partner is not an empath, and things that would really deeply affect me it just doesn't register in the same way in him, because he doesn't have the same sensibilities, and I like that about him, because I wouldn't like to be with an empath. It would be too much to deal with. I have enough in myself. But it's important to notice that, if what depletes you, and to begin to develop self-care, meditation, setting boundaries, learning to say no, going out in nature, just breathing out stress rather than holding your breath. All these techniques I talk about in the book would be helpful.
Well, it's interesting that you say that you have, a partner that, appreciates that and, acknowledges the differences. But it also, the flip side is, and I'm sure in your practice you see a lot of people who, unfortunately, they've attracted someone who takes advantage of their sensitivities and, empathy. The word narcissist gets thrown around a lot, but what is it about an empathetic person that attracts, what we call the energy vampires? What is, what's the tipping point of when suddenly this is not a healthy interaction between you and another person?
Well, part of self-care for empaths is learning how to pick positive people in your life and identify the energy vampires. And, of course, the narcissist is one of the biggest energy vampires for empaths. And the reason is that empaths are giving, loving, and will try and fix someone and help heal them, forever. They don't know when to stop and that they can't fix others. That's part of their growth and development. But the narcissist is attracted to an empath because, the empath will support them in that way. And narcissists, full-blown narcissists, often have empathy deficient disorder, which means they're not capable of empathy as we know it. And I really want people to absorb that and get that, because they don't operate by the same rules as empathic people. When narcissists don't get what they want, they become cold, withholding, punishing, or gaslight you. So, it's important for empaths to know this, and part of the self-care techniques, I discuss are how to identify a narcissist, how to coexist with one, or not get involved with one. You have choices, because narcissists in the beginning can present a front of being very loving and very, complimentary and fun and intelligent and charismatic and seductive. So all of that, to me, would say red flag. Red flag. Just too seductive, too charismatic. Just beware.
Well, all of your work comes from, being out in the trenches. And what I think is unique is a lot of people write in theory, but you deal with people one-on-one in, therapy sessions. So I think, what's interesting is you can kind of look at trends. I'm wondering, in the past, say, 10 or 15 years, what have been the trends in the people you see? Do you see more people who are being targeted by narcissists? What's the current state of the empaths out there?
I think that more and more empaths are awakening. Since my first book, The Empath Survival Guide, I get so many emails and letters and thank yous and, oh, my God, I'm an empath. I never realized it. I always thought I was depressed or anxious or chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia, but now I know I'm an empath, and that can help all those other symptomatologies, learning how to practice self-care as an empath. So empaths are on the rise. The terminology is in the zeitgeist now, and I'm really happy my first book was able to create that, because before that book, I was even afraid to use the word empath because I didn't think people would know what it meant. But I decided to go with it, and then bam, it's just taken off as trending, and people identify all over. I mean, some of them aren't even empaths, but they think they're empaths. So it's important to take the 20-question questionnaire in front of my book to determine how much of an empath you are, full-fledged, slightly, moderate. Then you could practice the self-care techniques in thriving as an empath, and then journal about your process and your growth in the Empath Empowerment Journal.
Absolutely. And what's also interesting, you say the zeitgeist, and I think you're an example of when people put information out there, especially now with, the internet and, easy access to it, that changes can happen faster. Back in the 70s and 80s, you'd have to go on Donahue, to reach an audience to talk about something like this,
right.
which was kind of fun. I mean, Donahue was great, bringing people out there for this, but now you have much more direct contact with people. With the internet, what are your preferred ways to, contact people directly?
Every way I can. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I have a newsletter, an Empath newsletter that goes out every month. I have a Facebook group called Dr. Orloff's Empath Support Community that has over 15,000 empaths dialoguing and learning from each other. So I really believe in using what media we have to transmit the word, to awaken people. Mm-hmm. I really believe in it. It can be used for the good.
Well, tell me more about when you have, say, a forum or a support group for empaths to talk to each other. What's uniquely therapeutic when they come together and share their stories?
Because they feel seen with a capital S. They feel like they're not crazy or weird or different. They feel part of a loving community where people are growing and learning about being an empath and discussing openly the challenges without judgment or criticism. And there's so many articles that people share about empaths. I'm actively contributing to the group, and they have all these special offers that I give the group for various things and information that I share. So it's my way to be actively involved with a large group of people and honor my empath self by staying home, because it's easier, for empaths to be in a quiet, lovely environment and interact on the internet, for me, a lot of times. So that suits my empath nature. The internet is very good for my empath nature because I love to communicate with people and get the word out, but I don't always like going on the road to do it, although I'm just about to do that. I'm about to go on a book tour, and which I'm excited about, and I'll be in L.A. on November 2nd at Mystic Journeys Crystal Gallery and at Vroman's on October 22nd in Pasadena. So, but in terms of the group, it's good to be at home and do it and reach that many people.
Well, one thing that you talk about is, I think, just fear of being in public. And it seems like maybe some people are taking their first steps to learn about this, that they can do it online where they might be a little intimidated at first to meet people in person and talk with each other.
Right, exactly. However it works for you, it's fine. It's just another option. Doing online, it's interesting, there's a lot of men in my group who don't participate very often, but they're part of the group, and a lot of times the women will say, "Where are all the men here?" And then the men will talk about how they're more reluctant to share their empath abilities and their sensitivities because they were, criticized as little boys and called sissies and crybabies and not masculine and all that, which is none of it is true. But, there's a reluctance sometimes, among men to come out. And, with my live events that I'm having, a lot of times the one partner brings another partner, and that's a way of educating them. They come in service of being loving to the empath partner, and as a result, they learn and become educated how to love them in the best possible way.
Well, if you grew up as an empath in a family that was not sensitive to that, where, the ones that said, be more thick-skinned, you're, overreacting. If a person has grown up with that and then they meet, say, a partner who really wants to be good to them, but they don't trust it, they're so used to people discounting their experience. How do you help people trust that, I'm in a safe environment with a partner who believes me and wants my best?
Well, the partner has to prove themselves to the empath. I mean, you don't know that right away. You know that over time. And plus, you need to educate the partner, because a lot of partners don't know about empaths. And so, you can share my book with them, and then you could read it together. That happens a lot. Just little sections of it at once to try and educate the partner. And you can have a loving partner who knows nothing about empaths, so they need to know you need your alone time. You can't have too much togetherness. It doesn't work for you. That's a big thing. Yes, I can't do too much togetherness. I'll get overwhelmed or antsy or restless. I don't like it. So I like my alone time as an empath, and I like my togetherness time, but not too much. You see, other kinds of partnerships may be different in terms of the togetherness. They might enjoy it more, or I don't like, going to big social events that much, and thank God my partner doesn't either. But I couldn't be with somebody who always liked to socialize. It would be too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be alone. Or when I go out, I like being one-to-one. I like 2 or 3 people at dinner. I like going for walks with people. That's one of my favorite pastimes. It's just walking. Simple things I like. I don't like going to huge, gigantic events where I have to fend off all that chaos and energy.
Well, that sounds like true self-care, knowing what you like and, allowing yourself time to do the things you like. So in your book, Thriving as an Empath, the subtitle is 365 Days of Self-Care for Sensitive People. So tell me a little about that format. Is it one day is one tip on self-care? What can people expect from the book?
Well, the book is divided. It's like a calendar. It starts with January 1st and it goes to December 31st, one trip around the sun. And I invite everyone to take it together. You could either start with January 1st or whatever day you get the book, and then go for a complete year. Every day is devoted to a different level of self-care. For instance, one is how not to absorb the energy of other people, how to practice self-care around energy vampires. Self-acceptance is one day. There's a technique called return to sender, which is a way to return energy that you don't want. The power of eye contact, learning how to discerningly use eye contact so you don't always look into the depths of people's eyes when you don't want to absorb their energy. Or April 23rd is the martyr syndrome. How not to be a martyr but still be compassionate and giving. So each day is devoted to a different theme that I found useful in my own life, and it's only one theme per day. And in each day I have a set your intention at the bottom of the description, and it's the intention you want to set for that day to practice the self-care. And that's a way. It's kind of a mantra throughout the book. It's almost, it's something you do with every single day. So it's a structure that you become familiar with. And so either that start with the first day, or you could turn to any day in the book, like an oracle. Just flip to it and practice that technique. It's your book. You can use it however you like.
Very nice. And it seems like you also have a companion book that's also coming out on October 22nd, which, oh my God, that's only a few days away.
I know. Isn't that exciting?
I need 2 debuts in one day. So the companion book is, Tuesday, special Tuesday, and this book has a great subtitle, Your Self-Care Companion. It's the Empath Empowerment Journal. Is this the one where you more get into writing into it, interacting, putting your thoughts in? What's the format of this book?
Right, it's a journal, and you take your pen, and there are questions, and How do I not absorb other people's energies and write about it? What are the challenges of being an empath and write about it? How can I practice more self-love? Write about it. And it's a fun journal, and it's light and playful, and it's private. You don't want to let anyone else in this journal. It's just for you to express your empath self, unless you choose to share it. But otherwise, I strongly suggest that it's private, so you won't hold back on what you write.
Journals are so popular now. I mean, what is the therapeutic aspect of a journal? What do we actually, at its core, get out of journaling?
Release, emotional release, processing, clarity, compassion, creativity. I mean, you name it. You can, if you do it with an open heart, you're off and running in terms of expanding yourself.
And is it something where I know for me when I see a book, it's like, oh, I don't want to touch it or get it dirty. It's like, I don't know, for me, I have to get past that little roadblock of saying, oh, it's okay to write into a book or doodle in a book. I mean, isn't the best journal one where people write in the margins and just go crazy with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have people taping things in the journal. Like when you go on a nature walk, take a leaf. Take a beautiful flower, put it in there, make a montage from magazines about sensitivity. It's a creative journal, and you don't have to worry about it getting dirty because it's a shiny cover, because I thought about that. It's shiny, and it's, I think, water repellent, so you could take it anywhere.
Well, our time has been flying by. This is great talking. I just want to wrap it up with, I think anyone who's out there like you, especially on the internet, writing books, you're really putting yourself out there. And at this point, it's obviously more than just, writing books. It sounds like you really have a mission, and, you have a life's work that you've found. I mean, at what point, what was the turning point when you really decided, empathy and just the plight of empaths was what you were going to embrace for your life's work?
Oh, gosh, maybe 25 years ago when my first book, Second Sight, came out. So I had a lot of fear about speaking in public because I was shamed so much as a child for my empathic and intuitive abilities. So it was a process of maturing and growing up and getting over enough of my fears that I was able to publish my first book, Second Sight, which is about being a psychiatrist and an intuitive and how I use intuition with patients. And intuition and empathy are very similar to me. And it feels like empathy is a wider application than simply intuition, though intuition is key to empathy. It's a way of tuning into other people. And so now it's my strength. Empathy is my strength. It's one of my strengths. And it's a quality that I value so much in myself, my partner, my friends, my loved ones, everyone in the world. When I see people talking about empathy, my heart opens and I go, yay, we're on the right path. When we're talking about narcissism, self-absorption, and only materialism and money, it's not going to go in the right direction at this point. We need people talking about empathy, and I want to do my part in spreading that around.
To the general public that once, say, a friend tells them, oh, I'm an empath, or a coworker or a family member, how would you recommend they respond? What do you think is the most healthy way to respond and help someone who has revealed that to you?
Well, I suggest you be very careful about who you share it with. If somebody's very judgmental and critical of you, I wouldn't go and say I'm an empath. That wouldn't be safe. But for those who you would like to, share with, who are positive people, you can just say, I'm a sensitive person, and, I value my empathy, and sometimes, I need my alone time, so it's great if you could respect that. And thank you for supporting me. If you enlist somebody else's help and your support and make them your ally, then they won't feel like they did something wrong. But sometimes if you say to a partner, I need alone time, they think you don't like them anymore. They get into their inner child that's afraid of rejection. And you have to say, no, honey, I love you. I'm wild about you. And I'm sharing this new aspect of myself. So you could help me with it.
That sounds really nice. I think for a lot of people, they're just hungry to hear a positive response like that.
Oh, yes. The response is, how interesting. I love you, and I'm interested in learning about this part of you.
Well, I could talk to you for hours, but I'm going to wrap it up with one more question. Because you have so many cool directions we could go with this, because I really do think it's a societal issue. I think there really are a lot of, what you call energy vampires and narcissists who prey on people, but you're really giving empaths the tools to stand up to that. So my last question is, if someone is listening to this and thinks, hey, this sounds like me, I'm an empath, but they haven't really done anything to help themselves, what is the first step they could take today?
Be around people who give you energy. Notice the people who give you energy versus deplete. Just write in your journal about that. That's the first step towards positive self-care and relationships. And I also invite everyone to my talks, my book talks and discussions, November 2nd at Mystic Journeys Crystal Gallery in Venice, California, 3 p.m., and also October 22nd at Vroman's Bookshop in Pasadena at 7 p.m. So come and relate to other empaths, or just come and listen and don't say anything. Just take it in as you like, but do take it in so you could learn about yourself or learn about a loved one.
Well, your new books will hit Amazon.com October 22nd, along with your catalog of other books that are already there. Other than that, your website, drjudithorloff.com, doctor being D-R. Otherwise, I really encourage people to go to your YouTube page because you sound great when you're talking directly to an audience. And if they're in the area, I really encourage people to go see you in person.
Yeah, that would be great. I love meeting people. So I look forward to meeting those of you at my events. And for those of you who can't make the events, I have an online course for empaths that's 9 lessons, video lessons, where I kind of guide you through different aspects of being an empath, such as work, love, emotions, health. So you could take my online course, which is at drjudithorloff.com.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show today. So best of luck with the new book. I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy about that.